Where's...
Hello everybody, welcome to Sonic Talk number 262, recording today live on Wednesday, It's the 18th of April. First of all, apologies for those who are trying to listen live. There seems to be some kind of issue with the video streaming server, which we've never had before, so I'm not exactly sure how to fix it, but you'll just have to wait until this gets put up online and you can see it in glorious 720p via YouTube. But this week I've got three guests with me, and it's a kind of a special week because there's a bit of a special subject and a special release that we have a kind of a kinship with, I think it would be fair to say. But first of all, let's introduce my guests and then we can come back to that because I've got a couple of videos to play. So we'll start over here with PJ Tracy from pjtracysound.com, who has been frustrated in his attempts to get video working. We will get there in the end, I know we will, PJ, but in the meantime we will just have to bask in the icon that is PJ Tracy on Skype. Anyway, PJ, how are you?
I'm very well, Nick, thank you. Yeah, doing very well. It's warm here this morning. Looking forward to the topics this morning. Fantastic release this first topic. Yeah. So yeah, doing well. Yourself?
I'm good actually. Just finished doing the clavier or Nord drum review, which I'm pleased to have got out of the way, just because I wasn't sure quite how I would pull it together. I managed to borrow a pad off somebody so I could plug it all in and everything. So hopefully that should be online fairly soon. And we published our Yamaha THR amp review, which I thoroughly recommend anyone who's interested in like a little tiny digital modelling amp is worth checking out. Very good sounding piece of equipment, that is, I must say. Anyway, thanks for joining us, PJ. Let's go now to Mark Tinley, who's over there I always get this wrong. You're going to have to just prompt me. Where are you?
I'm in Bedfordshire.
Bedfordshire. I knew it was one of the shires.
I should have stayed in Cambridgeshire, but I've moved to Bedfordshire.
Likebeing.com, and you're sporting a hat this week. Is that a haircut or is it just a bit chilly?
I have had a haircut.
I'm
looking all smart because I'm going to go and do some civil ceremonies and name some people's children. It never helps to look like a mad drug-crazy lunatic when you're naming people's children because it makes them cry. So
certainly not, and certainly not in the publicity photos for your kind of work for hire literature either, I'd imagine. Yes. But, anyway, Mark, thank you very much for joining us as well. And I know you've got a special connection with today's first topic. But before we get there, we'll also say hello to Dave Spiers from GForceSoftware.com. There
Hello.
He is. Dave might be looking a little bit relaxed. There's a certain something that is presumably out of your hands now and out into the outside world, and we can talk about, right?
Yay! Well, this is obviously why we didn't go to places like Mesa and NAM and stuff like that. So yes, I think I alluded to the fact that there were a couple of exciting things, and obviously the propeller heads thing was one, but this has been bubbling under for a long, long time. So yeah,
yes, I have. In fact, I've got some things to play because I think really we should introduce it with a bit of video. So if you've, just in case you have been under a rock for a couple of days or you haven't been exposed to the wonder of what is going on with iZotope, here it comes.
IRIS is a groundbreaking sampler and resynthesizer that harnesses the power of both your eyes and your ears. Unearth unique sounds and textures using the spectral selection technology made famous with iZotope RX. First, load a preset or sample from the extensive IRIS sound library, or drag and drop in your own audio file. The blend slider adjusts the balance between the waveform and spectrogram display of your sample. Built-in root note detection automatically assigns the correct note and maps your sample across the keyboard, which you can adjust as you please. IRIS comes with innovative visual selection tools. You can isolate and carve out harmonic content that then becomes the basis for your synthesis. You can load up to 3 samples plus a sub that can enrich and reinforce your sound with preset waveforms. The synth panel contains dedicated controls for each sample, including tuning, enveloping, and LFO control, as well as master send effects that use iZotope's award-winning DSP.
Right, I'll stop it there. But I mean, this is big news. This is the thing that basically has been worked on. Dave Spiers, I know you've been basically sort of helping bring this to fruition. Perhaps you could tell us a little bit about just about the process and you know how it was, how it came about.
You know, I was going to say I've no idea, and that would be the end of that, and kill that topic to stone dead.
Thanks.
No, yeah, thanks. Bye. What happened was I was doing some sound design for a film, and the vibe was to try and confuse listeners as to whether a sound was synthetic or organic. And at the time, I was using RX and isolating certain harmonics within sounds, and this was the original RX, so that gives you some idea of how long ago it was. Anyway, it's after playing around for a little bit with several ideas, I kind of quit for the night, went and sat in front of the TV, and this Honda advert came on television, and it just kind of blew me away. There were these really clearly defined bands of audio, and I immediately just kind of went, that's what I need to do, and came upstairs and kind of, again, set to work, and for me, it was like a light going on. So what I did was take sounds, isolate the various harmonics, render them out, put these into EXS24, say 3 or 4 at a time, and layer them so that, you know, I was playing this kind of composite sound from the keyboard. And then later on I saw Mark, and I think it was Nick Batt from iZotope, and mentioned how this had kind of taken place. And what I love about RX is because you look at the spectrogram, it changes your assumptions about audio. So you're not looking at the waveform in a traditional sense. And as a result, you kind of experiment and you kind of climb between the gaps, as it were, of audio. And I think when you look at things harmonically, it appears to be inherently more musical. Anyway, long story short, they said that they had actually considered this, or they discussed it there, and but everyone was busy, and the chances of making time for it was, you know, somewhere between 0 and 0. And that's why I assumed this was never going to happen, which is why I mentioned it on the podcast when I think we were discussing RX2.
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah.
And at that time, I probably said way too much, but some of the guys from iZotope were listening, and I think, you know, judging by the comments from everybody, it effectively made them contact us and go, okay, so how can we kind of make this happen? Is it possible? So we kind of thought, Chris and I just kind of went, we have to make this happen, because I'm such a fan of RX, in particular RX2. Once it had got the lassos in and the magic wand and all of those kind of extra parameters, Chris and I were just kind of like, right, let's see if we can make this happen. So we threw together a parameter list and we sent it to them, and then one of them, the main engineer JB, came over to see us with something really rough as a kind of proof of concept, basically some modules bolted together. And what was brilliant is he was in Venice at the time, I think, taking part in some kind of art and music festival. So he really got the concept, both from a musical and a kind of technical point of view, which it was all of these kind of things just sort of converged.
Yeah.
So then it was a kind of, it was a case of, you know, some business stuff, and then basically loads and loads of people have been on board. Mark did some awesome sound design. We've had people like Tara Bush. What was really interesting is that this, I did some research on this Honda advert, and it turned out it was John Hopkins, who at the time was kind of having this massive hit with Monsters. He did that movie. You remember that movie that was shot on this kind of guerrilla budget? And
Right.
John's worked with Brian Eno, and then obviously Carl from Underworld had worked with Brian, and he put us in touch. So we had this really big conversation about how Brian only uses things like spectral delays, and how John gets all these kind of sounds, and how he got the sound on that Under advert. So it was just kind of huge. So then it just basically kind of carried on from there, and Chris did a ton of workflow, kind of defined the workflow of the instrument, and then it kind of toed and froed between us and iZotope for a long time. We went to Benji's studio, recorded a load of the modular stuff. I set to work on the library. Mark, as I said, was a massive help on that. Even Gaz came to see us at one point and kind of chipped in a few ideas. There's people like Tara, a guy called Scanner, who does some amazing recordings. In fact, he gave us sounds of things like liposuction and a facelift. Because we love this idea of kind of juxtaposing these really kind of disgusting sounds and isolating harmonics and turning them kind of into something beautiful. So it was a really, really interesting and fascinating project. Ultimately, this was the work of a lot of people, but everyone was really pumped. And the iZotope guys, Jack, JB, Jeremy, all those guys are so smart that, it was a kind of real thrill to do or be involved with.
Fantastic. So Mark, tell me a bit about your involvement as well, because you presumably got hold of some of the kind of early versions.
Yeah, Dave started sending me versions was it the middle of last year? So there was sort of various different beta versions of it. And I went out and recorded things that I thought would have interesting spectral content to put in it and try and make other things with. But when I first started playing it, the thing that became immediately apparent is that whenever you're trying to sample anything from a record, so just aside from the sound library creation, I discovered that I could drag an entire track into it, or a big enough chunk of a track, and then just literally click on the sound that I wanted and play it across the keyboard. And that, to me, is absolutely brilliant, that you can just, without having to sort of dig around and cut things up, you can almost instantly get at the sounds that you want to get at. Brilliant.
Oh, fantastic! So from
I've not answered your question.
No, that's but I mean, because I know you've talked about, you're very much the sound design stuff that you do. A lot of the stuff in the past has been very kind of just sort of difficult to achieve just because of the software tools that are there. So I mean, is this just kind of make it much more sort of real?
Well, it just makes it instant. So I mean, I've played around with spectral tools for a long time and done all sorts and made sort of weird sounds out of spectral stuff. But when you can just, and I can't remember what it's called now. I used to have this piece of software that threw up spectrograms and you could play around with it. And
Metasynth?
Yeah, I had Metasynth. I got on okay with that. There's another one I was thinking of, but I can't remember what it's called. But I mean, the fact that you can literally, you can throw the waveform up and you can throw a spectrogram up, and when you double click on something in a low harmonic, it intelligently works out what all the other harmonics are, and you end up with like a series of waves across the band of harmonics that are most meaningful to that sound. And you can literally start separating sounds from other sounds. So, I mean, I know this sounds like an odd sound to one. No, maybe it's not. There's a sound at the beginning of that track that goes, "Can you feel it?" And there's this siren that goes,
yeah,
at the beginning of, and for about 20 years, I've been trying to get that sample on its own, right? So I threw the beginning of that track into this thing and double clicked on it, and it just took that sound and isolated it from all the drums and everything else. And then I was able to play around with that and like stick that in a track and do things with it. And it's just, the ability to, it wasn't just that I was able to do that, but it was that I was able to do that so quickly. And I think that's the key, because I think it will, my personal opinion is it will spawn a new generation of music, because people will find they're able to put things together that traditionally they haven't been able to put together just by filtering or time stretch or whatever. You'll be able to isolate sounds and play them instantly and try them around with things. So
that sounds fascinating. I mean, what are the synthesis capabilities like? In terms of what you can then do with it. I mean, can you do pitch correction as well, or is it purely about sort of taking the sound and just isolating it, really?
pitch correct? Well, it'll find pretty much the root note. You can tune it like a sampler. Obviously, there's loads of different filter types, so you can put that sound through various different resonant style filters: high pass, low pass, band pass. So you've kind of got a synth on. If you think of a sampler, you've got a sampler, except you've got a very comprehensive narrow band filter system attached to a sampler, where you could, like, in the same way as things like Wavelab, and obviously in the same way that iZotope works, you can actually isolate bands from within that sound,
Right.
and then it's instantly available on the keyboard. That's the most important part for me. And
That
then
is
you can
impressive,
put,
yeah.
and then you can put it through a set of synthesis. God, I can't say that. Why can't I say that today?
Synthesis parameters.
Synthesis parameters, like envelopes, filter envelopes, pitch envelopes, LFOs, and you can start assigning all sorts of different traditional synthesis to something that you've already pulled out of. You can pull impossible things out of.
I can see playing around with them. I can see what you mean about the concept that this could actually spawn a whole new set of sound. I mean, I'm guessing PJ, something like this, particularly if you're working for clients, because people love it, don't they? Film directors love it when you can take the sound of a visual element that they've used and turn it into something that makes a sound that is appropriate to the music. They love that kind of approach, in my experience.
Yeah, I can't wait to get my hands on this. I can think of one project that I'm going to apply this to immediately, and that's creating a branding tag for a company. I can see how I can use this and sort of infuse elements of their product into their audio identity.
Right.
And I think that is a really, really cool thing, and I'm really excited about this. This is just phenomenal. One question I have for maybe for Dave or Mark, if either of you know, will there be the ability in the future to animate the masks on the spectrogram?
I can't answer that, PJ. I can't talk for us. Don't know. I mean, there are so many ideas that were floated during the program. I mean, for me, it was really exciting because obviously we have a very, when we do an emulation, there's a very strict defined set of parameters and characters that we have to kind of adhere to. Whereas this was like, actually, we could do anything. Then there came this moment where it was like, we could, but we are going to have to put the reins on certain things. And really, as a kind of almost not a proof of concept, but Yeah, I guess you could kind of say that as a kind of proof of concept. Does this work? Let's take it to this level. And I mean, Mark was throwing in ideas left, right, and centre, and it was really fascinating to kind of see these. And I felt sorry for a couple of guys at iZotope, with one guy in particular, Jack, that was sort of juggling all of this input. And he was the one who really kind of had to make the hardcore decision as to what will be in and what may wait for another iteration. What I love about the way iZotope works is that, RX was great in itself. RX2 was a big step forward. Yeah. So it's my hope that actually there will be, if we can get similarly progressive steps into IRIS, it will be pretty awesome.
That's
all I can say, because that's all I know, really.
Congratulations, guys. Congratulations. It's fantastic.
Thank you.
What sort of polyphony and kind of instances can you get in a sort of typical kind of laptop setup? What those kind of nuts and bolts things, what have you been finding?
Oh, it's hardcore on the CPU. I mean, on my 8-core Mac, there's a couple of modes. Obviously, if you're in resynthesis mode, it's a lot lighter on the CPU because effectively the higher, once you've got your root note, the higher you play up the keys, the more munchkin it will become. But then there's IRIS, I think it's called IRIS RX mode, which is the kind of pitch stretching, the time stretching, and that's all in real time, and that really does add quite a lot of CPU load.
Yeah.
And at one point we weren't entirely sure whether it was going to be possible to do that, but they made pretty big leaps in using that in real time because the computations it's doing, I mean, effectively you've got limitless filtering when you're drawing these bands in using the lasso and stuff. You've got endless filtering, So at some point it has to kind of take a snapshot and go, right, okay, it's this, and then it's got to spread that across the keyboard and make it even. So
so it's doing quite a lot of work.
Yeah.
But I mean, I suppose you just bounce or whatever. I mean, that's just the way it goes, isn't it? I mean, you can't have it.
I like the fact that you learn to deal with these limitations. You know, at first there was a kind of not frustration, but kind of a scary thing until you kind of go, oh, you know, how much is possible? Is this going to be? Have we been wildly ambitious here? But I mean, they've got some amazingly smart guys, and again, you know, in the same way as with things like the Tron, those limitations kind of force you to work in a different way. And it's not a huge limitation, but I do find that, for example, I'll use a lot of monophonic stuff if I'm using the time stretch.
Okay, well, so I mean, I don't think limitations are a bad thing, and this thing does seem like it's capable of doing an enormous amount of things at the same time. So, once again, I'm looking forward to that. I would like to play this second video because it does confirm that there was I don't know if you remember the iZotope for our listeners. Anyway, they were the various transmissions, little blips that were just sort of hints at what was coming, and this was the final one. So I'd just like to play this as proof that we do feel like we have a sort of kinship or relationship to the inception of this instrument.
Absolutely.
It takes a whole class of things that used to be, you can't do that, and turns them into, sure, just give me a few minutes.
That looks really interesting from a creative point of view.
I've been saying, you have to try and find a way of turning this into a synth.
There we go, proof that we did have some kind of. In fact, there was a bit of stuff there. So, Dave, you were about to come in.
Can I just say one thing? That what was really funny is that obviously we do the podcast on a Wednesday afternoon, and then after that, Chris and I would have a conference call and a demo with everyone at iZotope, which was actually the best way round, because at one point there was talk of bringing it forward, and I was like, no, I can't have it before the podcast because there are all these kind of punch the air moments, and I would definitely have blurted something out had it have been. Very funny. But yeah, no, it's brilliant. All of these things kind of do, and this is what I absolutely love about the work that can be done, is when all of these little things dovetail together. The whole John Hopkins thing, the fact that Carl was working with him, the conversations that happened on here, the conversations that had happened, when all of these things dovetail together, there's this kind of meeting of minds, and for me that's just totally awesome.
Well, thank you very much. I should say, actually, if I just probably throw this up, it's available now. There's a 10-day unlimited demo, which is a really cool idea. I mean, we might hopefully going to try and do something with some sort of a competition, perhaps, because you can make a sound out of anything. So 10-day unlimited demo, and if I go to, you can buy it if I click here, and it's currently at $149, which is about $100 off. The original price, the main price is going to be $249, but you can get it for $149 at the moment. I'm not sure how long this is going to last, but as far as I can tell, that's a pretty damn good price. You get 4 gigs of sound with it as well.
That's about $500 less than what it's worth, in my opinion.
I think the iZotope website says the beginning of May it goes up.
Right, so you've got until you've got until the end of this month then, basically, to get in there and do something. So, and
there's a plus version of the product as well that it ships with 2 sample libraries, I believe.
We've got it here, IRIS Plus 2, which comes with glass and wood, which are another 2 sort of specialist, I guess, libraries. 4 gigabyte sound library, and that's only another $50, so $199, and that would ordinarily be $299. So I'm guessing their servers are going to be hammered with all these downloads. 4 gig download for demo. I mean, they must be just caning it in bandwidth there. So, but once again, we thank. I can't wait to get hold of it. We've been promised some NFRs because we were part of somehow philosophical part of it anyway. So I look forward to really getting hold of it and trying it out, because it really does look very exciting. So I think probably it's time to say have a word from our sponsors, which I will just do now. If you're watching the video stream, which I'm guessing you might not be, as it doesn't seem to be working for those out there, and I can only apologise, it will be working next week. You can see that we have basically the sponsorship from Yamaha. 01V96i is their digital mixing console. It's compact, it's packed full of DSP, it's got lots of VCM effects in it and all sorts of stuff that is going to make this the compact digital console. The reason I'm blurbing is because I've forgotten that I haven't actually put the notes up in front of me to see what it says. Just give me 1 second. Let me just grab that. I need my ad. Talk. There we go. Let me go. There we go. Features 16 in, 16 out, USB 2 audio streaming, refined studio quality head amps. These are the same ones you find in the new Steinberg audio interfaces, which I know have been very highly thought of. A full suite of VCM effects, master strip, channel strip, and vintage stomp effects, plus RevX reverbs. 40 mixing channels. That's 32 mono and 4 stereo, 16 analog and 8 digital inputs. 24-bit 96K A to D DA converters. There's an ADAT board built in, so you don't need to use up one of your slots for that. It's still got a spare slot if you want other interfacing options. 100mm motorized faders, 4 effects simultaneous, 8 AUXs and 8 mix buses. Advanced DAW support comes with Cubase AI. Studio Manager, you can cascade 2 of them together to get a full 80 channels of mix down. And there's also a mini YGDAI expansion slot, so that you can put stuff like Cobra Net and various other options, AES, SPDIF, extra, even more ADAT inputs if you particularly wanted to. So we've created a little URL for you to go straight to the page. It's bit.ly URL, so it's bit.ly/01V96i. So do check it out. And if you're in a store which stocks a lot of Yamaha stuff, do go and have a look at it and see if it fits the bill. Because if you're in need of a digital console, whether it be live or studio, for whatever reason, it really does have an awful lot to offer. Right, back again. Let me see what's next on the topic. We've got madness. Well, we could talk about all sorts. There's so much, actually quite a lot this week. Let's maybe have a look at this, though, because this was the one sent in by Mark, actually. So this is the Kurzweil K2000 on eBay at the moment. I'm going to scroll down. The reveal is coming now. There we go. Buy it now for £265,000. Now, that is not incorrect. It's actually £265,000. And the reason it is because it's actually the one by Richard Wright. It's used by Richard Wright, who is it's the keyboard player from Pink Floyd. It was used on the Pulse tour and DVD. In fact, I can prove that because I in fact do have, if you look here, stay tuned, there it is, just in the background. You can see it just there. There we go. So I'm not fibbing. It's actually true. It's in working order. It's been well used. It's been used in his personal writing system, which is on his yacht, which I kind of like. I just like the idea of that. But what I especially like is the Hammond B3 is not included in the sale. And I'm thinking for 265,000 quid, you could include the bloody house that it's pictured in. But yeah, it's a lot of money. I mean, it is a legacy as well. I mean, I know Rich Hilton, he's not here, but he definitely does not feel all that he doesn't get all that sentimental about instruments, particularly not electronic instruments, guitars maybe, things that live and breathe. I don't know, what do you think, Mark? You spotted it, so what do you think? You're going to be maybe put that? I've noticed there are 9 offers being made, all declined.
Flabbergasting, absolutely flabbergasting. I mean, maybe £265 at a push, but £265,000. I just, I mean, I was sort of mildly amused when I saw it, and I thought it ought to be in the podcast, so I sent it to you, obviously. What could possibly make it worth that much money?
The library that comes with it, possibly? It doesn't mention anything about that, does it? Oh, hold on.
It's not really even authenticated, is it? It's not signed or anything. It doesn't have his signature scrawled across it, so no. I don't know.
It says, this is a fantastic piece of rock history. from one of the best.
Yeah,
I suppose. I mean, you could
might
say
be,
that.
but
I don't know. It seems a bit crazy. But having said that, I mean, I don't know if you can see in the background here. Let me see what I've got in the corner there. There's a Roland Juno 106, which is used on, I don't know, some remix or other that somebody famous, Kylie, say, for instance. And what have I got? The Monopoly over there. That was probably used on something or other. Do you reckon I could inflate the price just because of that? Or is it not? Am I not? I guess I'm not a Pink Floyd person. Obviously, Mr. Wright is no longer with us. He passed away in 2008. I wonder if that makes it kind of seem more valuable because it's kind of the spirit. I don't know. It just seems a little bit tasteless somehow to want to charge so much for it. Surely the market should be what is saying, I buy it, and people should be able to bid on it and say, yes, it has value to me, rather than just suppose it's £250,000. Just seems like an awful lot. I don't know, PJ, what do you think? You going to be buying it?
Saving my pennies right now, Nick. I think whoever put that piece on eBay and tagged that price to that piece was obviously living on the dark side of the moon.
Oh, like it. Yeah, nice work.
very good.
Very good
It is
indeed.
really unbelievable that somebody would even dream that anybody would pay that for that piece. And especially, as Mark said, it's not even authenticated. I mean, it doesn't have Wright's signature on it. And even if it did, I mean, I can see possibly, yeah, like you say, I think the market should bear it out. Put it up on eBay, offer a reasonable starting bid, and then let people bid the thing up and see where it goes, and not be so astronomically presumptuous as to be Ronald McDonald ridiculous when it
I wonder
comes
what the
to-
B3 below it's going to be, because I mean that's got 2 keyboards. Surely that must be about £500,000 possibly.
and it's probably eminently more usable at this point.
Well, Ed in the chat room says it's been corroded by salt air to boot because it's on his yacht. Someone should buy it and use it as another brick in the wall. There's some great ones there, and it does. I mean, obviously, we don't know the history and why it's being charged. Maybe it's going to a good cause. Maybe his family needs the money. Although if it's been on a yacht, I can't imagine that they're going to be wanting for all that much. But yeah, it's astonishing, isn't it? I know, Dave. I mean, you've bought Chick Corea's OB8 voice. I'm guessing it wasn't anything like that price, but some might say it has more artistic value. I don't know, because it's an electronic instrument rather than the Kurzweil is. I suppose it is an instrument, but it doesn't look like one that has a lot of soul.
No, but weirdly enough, I've got this cool prophecy that was owned by. If anyone wants to buy that, I was thinking of putting that on for about £100,000, £80,000, maybe. The guy who invented Dream. No, I'm surely they just got the decimal point in the wrong place at least twice.
Yeah, 2,650 would be a lot.
Very dodgy math.
Oh, look, Mechanic in the chat room says he'll buy it.
He'll buy what, the Kurzweil?
No, I think maybe not. Maybe he was talking that he would buy the Prophecy.
Oh, well, there you go. No, actually, do you know what? When I got that home, I plumbed it in and played around with it and thought, it's nothing spectacular, is it? And then actually, Feld Muso really helped me out, and he said you can reinitialize all the presets. So I looked up how to do that and did that, and the presets were better than the patches you had in it.
I didn't make any patches in it.
No, okay, that's good.
I'd just like to say, I didn't. I mean, I found some of it as quite sort of performy and kind of fun. But I mean, I couldn't think of any instance I would actually be, firing it up. I mean, it was quite expressive, admittedly. Perhaps more, like and look, probably more expressive than a Kurzweil K2000.
Yeah, I used to like that K2000, but I mean, that was like in about 1991 or something.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea. I mean, I don't know that that it'll go for that. I mean, it's got 22 days. Let's see, what's it got? It's got 22 days and 2 hours to go, and it's had 9 offers. So
does it have the really bad SPDIF digital out on it? I hope it at least has that.
Has the SPDIF?
No, I don't think it has.
Well, funnily enough, it doesn't
It's got
actually
a
say
wrong border.
it doesn't actually say anything about the specification of the instrument. It's only about the provenance. It doesn't actually. It just says it was used and it's on the DVD.
I'm going to offer a tenner.
The thing about the Kurzweil K2000 is that if you go out and you buy any current Kurzweil keyboard,
It's got all
it
of that.
can make all the sounds that the Kurzweil K2000 makes, because Kurzweil like to have a lot of backward compatibility. So pretty much any sound that's in that it will be possible to load that sound into one of the more modern ones. So it doesn't have anything that you couldn't go out and buy in a new one, as in the new one doesn't emulate it. It is it. It still has that as part of its operating system. So it has no vintage value at all, does it really?
Here's another interesting factoid about the K2000. If you want to time stretch a 10-second piece of audio in the Kurzweil K2000, you can load it up, do the math, figure out how long or how short you want to make that slice of audio, cue the thing up, set it to go, drive across town, order a pizza, eat that pizza, go have a few beers, come home, sleep the night, get up the next morning, and then it'll be ready for you, and it won't sound anything like the original piece of audio. So you can do that with it.
No, the size of thing that we've been talking about. I had lots and lots of ideas for that, and they decided that maybe it was a bit too soon to put them in.
Yeah.
Well, years ago, I had a friend in Kurzweil R&D, and I gave him lots and lots of ideas of things the Kurzweil K2000 could do, which were probably way beyond its computing power, and that may just have been one of them.
That's your fault. But did you actually? Yeah. Did you say that it has to be has to take long enough to actually drive across town and get a pizza? I think they should have built that in.
K2000 mode.
K2000 mode. Would you like garlic bread with that?
I do remember that I kept asking them to add features to the sequencer, and in the end they had problems fitting all of the program on the EEPROMs, and the sequencer had so many features that it just completely lost any ability to stay in time by the time it got to version 3. So, because it just couldn't compute everything, but it was fun, suggesting things and seeing them arrive.
Well, if you do fancy this, you can basically you should be able to put a bid in. No sensible offers refused, possibly, or even accepted by the looks of things. I don't know. I mean, you do actually. It looks like the person bought the yacht, and maybe they're trying to recoup the yacht price in the K2000. I'm not sure. All right. Well, a bit of fun.
We meant the yacht, not the keyboard.
Yeah. Oh no, that's the wrong keyboard. Yeah. Let me have a look. What's next? Yes, holographic performance. This is kind of a bit bonkers. Let's see. I think we've got video 4.
If you got a rap floor, another pump, tomorrow man, party.
Well, that was the big reveal there. That was the holographic performance of Tupac Shakur at the recent Coachella Festival. It was kind of quite a big deal. He was on stage with Snoop Dogg, and from what I could tell, it actually looked really quite impressive, if not a little creepy, because obviously he's been dead for 6 years, and so him sort of making this with all the crucifix and the comeback sort of thing was probably a little bit blasphemous, but I mean a very interesting idea, and one that certainly grabbed a hell of a lot of potential, a lot of publicity, and it looks like they might even be taking it on the road, so there'll probably be a Tupac and Biggie kind of event, and you can just imagine. I think as James from Synthtopia said, is this going to start the rap East West Coast rap wars all over again? But this is part of Dr. Dre's kind of doing, and that uses some very interesting technology to do it. And I did have a dig around and have a look at some other examples, and actually it's kind of, there's some really cool ideas. There's things where you've got a solo performer who's on stage, they're doing their thing, and then suddenly they kind of split into 3 of themselves and are all dancing in sync. And it just there's a lot of creative potential for this that could actually make it quite cool. And And Dave, what do you think? I mean, the idea of being able to do the gig from your, just like you could just have a back room with a green screen in it, and you just show up at Saturday night after Coronation Street, do your gig for a couple of hours, and then go to the pub without actually having to fly halfway across the world. Or is that wrong?
I don't know. It's weird, isn't it? I did see. What was interesting, I saw this morning on breakfast television. The guy who was one of the main people behind the technology was on, and the presenter was trying to ask how much would it cost to have this at my wedding, for example, Elton John playing the piano at my wedding, and he wouldn't be pinned down on price. All he would say is that that's ultimately where they'd like it to go, but at the minute it's prohibitively expensive. I did think it was exceptionally. I'm not entirely sure about the subject matter, but the technology is very, very cool.
It is very cool. They let me see the company. It's Musion Technology. It uses Polycom 80. What it is it basically it uses between 6 and 10 gigabit link. So you have the codecs that you use depend on how the quality of of it, and then there's this kind of reverse. It's basically a projector that bounces the light back up, so you get this hologram. It obviously takes a little bit of setting up, but they use the Musion eyeliner system, and it had a 30-foot by 13-inch screen, 30-foot screen, and it was customized by AV Concepts to descend onto the stage in seconds. So basically they could do it very, very quick, and the reveal would happen incredibly quickly, so it looked like the person was there. So they obviously know that, and obviously for big events it works pretty good. I don't know, I'm part of me thinks, what's wrong with that? But part of me thinks, isn't it a bit of a con? What do you think, Mark?
I've wanted to do it for years and years and years, and ever since I've had this image in my mind of running a 2-inch 24-track machine at the back of a stage, so that gives you some idea of how long I've thought about this. And I don't know, I just think it's really cool, and some of the other ideas, the idea of Elton John playing at your wedding, that's a brilliant idea. I like all of this stuff. It's just a different creative medium. You've got to just think of it as not really being like a gig and more of a sort of an event, theatrical performance maybe, or just a performance or a new style of performance. And it opens up lots of new corridors for people to be creative in, doesn't it? It's going to create again another new genre, another style of doing things. I mean, I'm sure, like in the 1940s when somebody invented the electric guitar, people were horrified by that, or some people were, and some people saw the creative potential. So I just see it as a new kind of creative potential, and it will get better and better, won't it?
Yeah, I guess so. Chat room has come out with some interesting points. MTV Awards had it years ago with Damon Albarn, I'm guessing that's probably, which was the Gorillaz, but that wasn't the same thing. That was a projection rather than something that was sort of more holographic. I mean, I don't think this is really holographic. It's just very well tuned to look correct.
When I helped out with War of the Worlds stage thing a few years back, and they had a hologram of Richard Burton, but it was just his face, and it was really massive, and it looked a bit like a sort of Thunderbird puppet, which was quite sort of strangely disarming when you sat in the audience going, he's looking at me.
You know that Vocaloid thing, the Yamaha thing?
Yeah.
I'm sure there's in Japan there's some holographic stars that go along with that Vocaloid thing, but they're like big anime kind of characters, aren't they? But I'm pretty sure they're holographically projected.
Undoubtedly, but I suppose the thing is if the event is staged in a big enough arena and the lighting and the atmosphere and there's other events around it, then it could actually have, it could work incredibly well. I know, PJ, you've sort of worked on various sort of AV installations. I mean, something like this, would you pay to go and see something like this? I mean, I certainly would once to see what it was like, but
I think it depends on what it was. Would I pay to see the reunion of Biggie and Tupac and all of them? No, probably not. But I think, like everybody said, this intimates at the creation of an entirely new genre, or maybe better said, a venue of some kind. So I could see holographic, retrofits in stadiums and theaters around around this country and all over the world, and then you could have a performer performing from one venue and maybe holographically beamed to other venues, simultaneously selling thousands upon thousands of tickets, around the world. But that seems to me like a pedantic use of this kind of technology. I mean, there's going to be all kinds of mind-bending uses that I could see this technology put to. One thing is it's slightly frightening is that now we're getting to the point where really we can't trust our eyes. There's going to be, this is early, nascent use of this technology, but eventually it'll probably get so good you're going to be able to beam somebody into a seat next to somebody else, and from across the room you might not be able to tell the difference between them and a real person. So that's yeah.
Then you got the smell to deal with.
Well, there you go.
Perfume.
Yeah.
There'll be perfume to go along with it. I know that. I think the idea of it, what you're describing, is sort of a bit like a live television broadcast, isn't it? Except rather than sitting in your own room watching it and doing a pay-per-view, you're going somewhere else for it and paying inflated bar prices and buying cheap hot dogs.
Well, it's kind of more like going to see a movie. So you go to something that's slightly larger and better possibly than a film, and if done correctly, better than these current crop of 3D films. You're going to pay for the sound system, obviously, for the decibel levels. You pay for being a part of the crowd and having that sort of energy transmit through the crowd. And if it's done well and it's convincing enough, I think a lot of people probably won't begrudge the fact that it's not the true live experience. I could see that happening.
It's an interesting idea. Sorry.
What might become interesting is in my lifetime, I didn't or haven't bothered to go and see the Beatles. So if somebody said to me, do you want to come to the new Cavern Club in Liverpool and come and see the Beatles play live, and the experience was something out of the 60s, then you could have these kind of bizarre historical sort of musical theme parks. So I could go and see Elvis or Little Richard or
rock and
the
roll.
Beatles or whatever. Yeah, exactly.
Now that's an interesting point that Mark brings up, and it reminds me that I was going to comment on that, is that this is definitely going to usher in a whole new level of security with trademarking and copywriting of names and personas and that kind of thing, because you're going to have people's estates after they're gone, or whoever controls their trademark, renting them out to facilities like this for that very purpose, I would imagine. And I would imagine there'll be a glut of that kind of thing over the course of the next decade, where you can go and see the Beatles resurrected.
Yeah, or next time, or for instance, they might be figuring out a way to say, like One Direction, who are all over the States at the moment. They're a UK boy band that was constructed. Maybe they're going to spend a week in some sort of studio being scanned so that they can be repurposed ad infinitum,
kept
as
forever
commodity.
young.
Kept forever young and as a commodity. It's entirely possible.
This reminds me of Joss Whedon's show, The Dollhouse. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that. No. That television program. It just reminds me of this because I've been watching this, and it's that kind of thing where people are being copied and repurposed and that kind of thing. We're there to some degree.
I wonder what the ramifications for things like double jeopardy are on this, or being tried again for another crime, or being tried for a crime that's already been committed, or if anybody tried to assassinate Tupac's hologram, what the ramifications of that would be, whether you could actually even get done for that.
Crimes against music, perhaps. I'm not sure. But,
it's a kind of weird one, isn't it? It opens up a huge.
No, but seriously, there are some other links online to them demonstrating the technology, and that looks really good because they've got things like solo performers just playing away, and these amazingly beautiful sort of unreal. There's a guy playing guitar, and there's this sort of naked female form in what looks like a kind of big tube of water, but beautifully lit, just sort of floating like an angel above the stage. And it's really quite visually interesting and sort of better than just the big projection at the back of the stage. It has more magic to it, I suppose, and that's what showbiz, I suppose, is about. I imagine if you tie this together with someone like David Copperfield in Vegas, and you could get some really exciting and stunningly visual shows. Those big kind of scale shows that I've never been to one of those, but I imagine something like this would just go down a treat in that sort of environment.
Or when you start to do something that's slightly more surreal, like you were just intimating with the female form floating above above the stage. I mean, you can get into all kinds of special effects that you were never able to do in a show before with just standard.
I think that's where it's going to be the most interesting, to be honest, because that's really got an awful lot to offer.
So maybe you could hang yourself in a glass box above the River Thames for like 3 months, but you could
not be there.
Really not be there. Yeah, just projecting a hologram into the glass box.
Great
maybe
idea.
That's what he did. Actually,
Maybe that should have done.
Maybe that was it.
Right, let's have a look what else we've got. I like this. I just thought a quick look at a bit of awesome music themed furniture. I like these sort of big foam. They look like a rack of. This basically came because I saw the sofa, the Moog Sofa, which I think I will get to shortly. Here it is. If I click on that, this was on the Moog booth at Music Messe, and everybody was just so blown away. And I thought it lovely. I took a big picture of it, and it was really sweet. And I really quite wanted to see what else they did, and they've got some really great things, and I just want to get some for the studio. They're great props. I like that one. Look, that's almost a life-size mini Moog. Small boy. Did you like any of this, Dave? There's no room for it in your house, but I'm
not sure about this. I'll tell you what I really did like. I liked the Marshall fridge. I thought that was exceptionally cool.
Oh, fridge. Was there a fridge there?
I'm not sure whether it was on that one, but somebody posted
not on that website. Yeah.
Somebody posted a Marshall fridge, which actually looks like 4x12, a couple of 4x12 cabs, and I thought that was exceptionally cool. Gave me an idea for a couple of other things, but I'm not sure about sofas and tables made out of mini Moogs and stuff like that. It's I could imagine. Could you imagine me trying to get that into my house here? Louise just look at me and just go, "It's taken over everything, hasn't it?"
It has now. Yeah, but I'm thinking I'd like some behind me here. Well, also, you could get maybe a VP330 or a Moog VG10 something like that. Sorry, a Korg. As I know how she loves that. How about that vocoder
sofa and a vocoder
at the same time? Yeah, great idea. I don't know. Well, but it's just a thought. I just thought it was kind of fun. These are called Woof, and that's W. Let me see if I can bring that up here. It's WOOUF.com, and you can buy it all online. And it's got some sort of foam, but they just sort of got some funky stuff there. I really enjoyed it, and I'd like some of that.
I thought that image of the guy cycling along on a bicycle with an absolutely massive Walkman was quite amusing.
Yeah, that was good. Oh, look, Dave's got his
the bag. Yeah, I love those.
He's got his bag on the go there.
Modelling my 909 bag.
Oh, I'm trying to switch to it, but hold on, my video switching's all frozen, so I'm gonna have to. Right, come on. Oh, right. I'll try again. There it is. The 909 bag. That's right.
Yay!
Made in Greece. So
yeah.
Not actual, made from Greece, made in Greece.
I wonder whether it was actually made with any license. Anyway,
who knows? Anyway, I thought it was fun. All right then. So I think it's just down to our final video, so we can have a bit of a laugh with this one. Do this quickly. Here it comes.
How's everybody doing tonight?
That's great, isn't it? I mean, what I particularly like about that is the sort of just the very slight OCD of the singer, who's just kind of washing his hands, everything, wiping everything, and being a little bit just over finicky, but not overdone. And then it's like one of those things at SpongeBob SquarePants, where where you see what it really looks like when they do a cutaway. I know. I would think we've covered smelly mics before, but I mean. Should you have a mic? Aren't there various issues that if you take a mic to a gig, then you've got to make sure that it's marked as yours and all that sort of thing? I mean, what do you think, Mark? Any thoughts?
Well, actually, I followed some of your links that you sent in there, and I clicked onto their website and found one with a very pretty blonde girl doing pretty much the same as that guy, with a bit more of the heavy metal band beforehand, with the guy virtually being sick into the microphone and someone throwing it into a box full of cables and then taking it out and putting it up for this girl. And that one has this sort of soft feminine edge to it, which is also amusing. Which
I did a quick search on microphone bacteria, funnily enough, just to see what it would throw up, and it threw up this article here, which was karaoke microphone germs. Are you spreading a singing virus? And it made me think, for all the sort of the rock and roll problem, a karaoke bar, that would be probably even worse. And PJ, I mean, you probably don't do a lot of singing, but imagine at piano gigs, they might hand you a mic just for sort of in between chit chat. I mean, do you tend to take your own for that, or are you just taking your life in your hands when you do that sort of thing?
I bring alcohol swabs.
Okay.
Yep.
I'd just wipe it off.
Yep.
That makes sense.
And I used to be the lead singer of a band that traveled throughout this country and did lots of singing and did the same thing. Always brought alcohol swabs.
Okay. But not your own mic?
Nope.
See, you've just given me a whole other idea, and actually that is that I do these self-development seminars sometimes, like large group awareness training things, and you have about 200 people sitting in a room, and you have some microphones, and people go up to the front and they talk. And I'm just thinking, those microphones in that building have been there. I mean, I've been going to those things on and off for about 10 years. So those microphones are probably the same ones over a period of 10 years. And the people doing the sound are generally people who don't know anything about sound. So you kind of have to talk quite closely into the microphone. I'm just thinking, God knows what germs are in those things. I mean, people cry and stuff on those things. And I'm like, oh no.
Yeah. So I'm kind of fortunate. I'm not so anal that I would have thought to do that unless I didn't already have access to them. I take a medication that requires me to inject, so I have boxes of alcohol swabs in my house, and that's what made me think to do it. But for anybody that is, routinely exposed to microphones and would like to do the same thing, you can get really good deals on boxes of alcohol swabs through any specialty pharmacy. And I highly recommend it.
I've got to bring this up. There's actually a brilliant Red Walks in the chat room has this. I can't get no disinfection, but I try. I try. I think that might be the show title right there. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
That's awesome.
That's a brilliant one. Absolutely superb. Yeah, I mean, incidentally, if you wanted to know, you can in fact buy the. Let me see. You could buy the ATM 150 cardioid dynamic vocal microphone for a mere $169 US, which has natural reproduction, low handling noise, and is rugged. So I'm guessing that is ultimately the point of this particular video series. But they've done a good job of it's all gone viral. There we go. That's another pun. That's another. So I guess so. But I mean, yes, it probably is a good idea to take your own mic. Why wouldn't you? Anyway, that's kind of getting on pretty much about it for this week. There's just remains for me to say one more thing, and that is that we are going to be having in the studio on Friday Susie Conrad, who's the UK joint winner of the Loop Station World Championships, the boss one, and she's going to come and do a couple of tunes and just deconstruct one of them for us and show us how the tech works for her. And I'm really looking forward to that because it's the first thing that we're doing. It's going to be over there in the blue corner. We're setting up everything. We've got all the. I was going to try and do it live, but I thought maybe that would be a little bit excessively risky. So we'll get the whole thing set up. We'll do a couple of songs, and then we'll have a piece, and I'll play some into the podcast next week. In the meantime, there's a little bit here of her, which I can quickly show you while we do the goodbyes. So that is Susie Conrad right there at the Roland finals. Or maybe it was one of the heats. And she does the whole thing in her Boss loop station. And she's got some great vocal arrangements as well, which is kind of cool. But what I might do is say goodbye to everybody as this plays out and give you a sort of a musical bed, if you like, of what's going on there. So I want to say thank you very much to Dave Spiers, GForce Software.
Thank you.
To you there, and congratulations on the output of the IRIS. And we're really looking forward to that. Hopefully, you might be able to come down and give us a little bit of a tour, and so we could get a bit of a product business on it. If that's possible
sure.
in the future. Great. Anyway, thank you very much, Dave Spiers, GForce Software. Congratulations, and I hope you're on a really big royalty because they're going to sell loads of them.
No.
Anyway, and also we'll say Mark Tinley. Oh, if I can get my video switching is really not working properly today. Come on, you can do it. There we go. Mark Tinley, likebeing.com. Thank you very much for joining us as well. Much appreciated.
I hope that young lady with the loop station's got a clean microphone. That's what I can say.
Yeah. I'm sure she has her own microphone. So anyway, thank you very much. And also PJ Tracy from PJ Tracy Sound, if I get this right. Thank you for joining us as well. I'm just going to turn this down a little bit so it doesn't interfere. So PJ, thank you very much also for joining us. Been a pleasure having you aboard. We will get that video working at some point.
Oh, you bet.
Definitely.
You bet.
And I want to say
Nick.
also, now if you've been listening to the podcast, the last couple of podcasts, I've been using iZotope Nectar across it, and it definitely makes quite a big difference. It sounds a lot more sort of crisp to my mind. So let me know what you think about that. If it's an improvement in sound overall, and yeah. You won't hear it on the video side of things, but certainly on the MP3 one and the SoundCloud version, which we put up every week as well, you can hear Nectar in full effect. So once again, thanks to our sponsors here at Sonic Talk. That's Yamaha, and also don't forget you can also save 20% on Mac Pro videos if you want. Just go to sonicstate.com/MPV. You save 20% on all downloads. Anyway, here we go. Just the last few seconds with Susie Conrad, who will be appearing next week.